Okay, so now we've got suited up, and we're going to go through some of the steps for actually suiting up and make sure that we're doing it right out in the field. We followed the matrix, and it said we need 11 cal suit, so we're going to be doing our steps for putting on our suits. So we've got our full suit on, our pants, we've got our Velcros tight. Your jackets, make sure the Velcro is flat all the way up, and then you've got it tucked in to your pants. Make sure that we have our hearing protection in. You've got your eye protection in. Always have to wear your goggles underneath. You got your hood sock on, and that is tucked into your coat also. So next we're going to make sure we test our gloves out there. First thing we want to do is make sure you got the right dates on the gloves. Should be a date stamped on. We have April 9, 2019. So our gloves are good. That's the expiration date that is on those to make sure that you need to follow. So once we make sure the date's right, we want to test the gloves. So inspect them, and then you want to roll the glove up, fill it with air, and then feel and listen for any air leaks on that. Make sure that the glove is good if it's holding air. Never dip gloves or fill them with water. Always fill them up roll them up and fill them just with the air, not compressed air. So Keith's testing his gloves there. Those gloves seem to be good. So, and then always inspect for defects, and then check your leather gloves to make sure there's no holes. You want to make sure that the leathers are going to protect the rubber gloves underneath. So those are good. So we're going to go on and continue in the work. I'm going to be in the work area. So we also have a 10-foot work area that we're going to have to clear out. We're going to have a spotter. I'm going to act as a spotter, but if I'm inside that 10-foot area, I also need to have the PPE on. So I'm going to have the PPE on when Keith is doing the work. So Keith's going to be suited up there. Our next steps are we have to grab a meter, and we said we needed a class 3 meter. So now that we've got everything on and we have our meter, we're going to check our meter on our known live source. We got to make sure the meter is working correctly. You make sure that the meter is not reading 0. Bad meters will read 0, so you want to make sure you're getting a reading and your meter is working correctly. So make sure that we have our meter. The meter we have is category 3 meter, and we've got category 3 leads on the meter. Now Keith's going to check and verify on our known live source. Reads 120. So now that we've checked on a known live source, we're going to now check our circuit with the meter from phase to ground first. So I'm going to get my PPE on.
With Travis being inside our 10-foot range, that's why he's putting on his PPE. At this time, make sure that your visor is down. All our PPEs in place, right? Yep. Okay, we're good to go. Now I'm checking voltage on the load side. To ground, 230 millivolts. Okay.
millivolts.
230 millivolts.
And 560 millivolts.
All right. So now we'll check phase to phase.
Millivolts, 620 millivolts, 92 millivolts.
So reading this as millivolts, this is de-energized.
So one thing we want to make sure we've done, we checked our meter on a known source. We've now tested it on our circuit and verified it's de-energized. Keith's shutting that door back up, and now he's going to re-verify his meter to make sure that the meter was working. He needs to make sure he has the same reading he did the first time he checked these.
$120 again.
So now we've tested our meter on a live, dead, live. Always check your known live source, your disconnect, and then go back to your source. And never shut your meter off in between. Do not turn your meter off and back on, because you could be on a different setting. You want to make sure you leave that meter on when you're checking on a known live source. Keith shut that back up. We verified that we're good. So now we've verified it's done. We can now remove our PPE and start our work. If you need to put any grounds on, you can apply your grounds while you have it open. We did not have to apply our grounds, so now we can go ahead and remove this motor and put our new motor in, and then we can energize it back up when we're done. Make sure when your work is complete, we also need to fill out the bottom part when work is complete. Before you turn it back on, we need to talk with our supervisor, check with our megger, and then before, if it's a plant, make sure you check with the plant before you just turn stuff back on if it's connected. Then we're going to go ahead and remove our locks and tags. And when we energize this back up for the first time, if we were checking this motor, we're going to have to suit back up. So to remove our tags here, you're going to want to make sure that we suit back up before you turn this on to make sure that nothing is going to happen the first time you energize that piece of equipment. So always talk with your supervisor before you are doing this also, before you re-energize, to make sure everything is correct. And again, it takes 2 people when you're turning it back on to make sure.